From the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 24, verses 36 through 49. We are still in this Easter season as the worldwide church continues the celebration of Easter to celebrate the power of resurrection of Jesus Christ. And Jesus appeared to many people after his resurrection, including his disciples. And we saw that Jesus appeared to them while they were in a closed room, and Thomas was not there, and we preached about that a couple of Sundays ago. Thomas did not believe, but Jesus also appeared to Thomas while he was with them again. So Jesus continued his appearances after his resurrection, and in Acts of the Apostles we read that he appeared to more than 500 people living at that time before his ascension, at least minimum 500 people that he appeared in person. This is one of those places where Jesus appeared again to the disciples. They were in the upper room, and they were in closed doors, afraid of their lives. So Jesus appeared to them and then said, "Peace be with you." But they were startled and frightened, thinking that they saw a ghost. He said to them, "Why are you troubled? Look at my hands and my feet. A ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you say I have flesh and bones." So there are several things that Jesus is trying to teach them about death and resurrection, even though he appeared to them in a situation that they were frightened and startled. They were startled. If Jesus appears today now in the midst of our service, we'll be startled and frightened, don't we think? Even though we believe that Jesus is everywhere, if he appears here in person, how many of us would probably be not afraid? That's what happened to the disciples, because they could not believe, even when he showed him his hands and his feet and his flesh and his bones. They were startled and afraid. It is natural. Human beings, as we are skeptical in many things. There was a guy who had a problem, a mental problem, that he thinks that he is dead. So he acts like he is dead, and he talks to everybody like he is dead, and he said he's dead. His wife had a problem, so she took him to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist tried to convince him that, "Hey, you are not dead. You are alive. You are talking to me." He said, "No, I am dead. I'm gone. I've been dead for years." And then the psychiatrist took a little pin and pricked on his finger, and he said, and the blood started coming out. And he said, "Now do you believe the blood is coming out? Do you believe? Are you dead or alive now?" "You're alive. The blood is coming." And he said, "Well, now I believe that the dead men do bleed." So no matter how you try to convince yourselves about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, there is still skepticism in our mind about resurrection. So Jesus wants to take that completely away from their mind, that you have to be convinced that there is life after death, because I am here. Look at me. So as people of God, we have to be convinced of our life after death, because Jesus did rise from the dead. That's what we believe. And we also have a post-resurrection life. We will have a body. We don't know what kind of body is that. It's probably the same kind of body that Jesus had. It is not going to be the same thing that is perishable. The one that we have now, which is subject to pain and suffering and sickness and decay. But we will have a body after resurrection, because Jesus had a body that will not decay, that will not be painful. So that is what our hope of eternity with God is about, that we will be with our dear ones who have gone before us. And there is an eternity because Jesus had gone through that. So while they still did not believe it, because of joy and amazement, he said, "Well, I am going to ask you, can I have something to eat?" That also tells me that we will be able to eat and drink in heaven. Isn't that great? That we will be able to. That may be why we have this always this dinner and supper and monthly. We have monthly. Many churches have it on a weekly dinner, and people the great potluck dinner. That's probably what started. That we are all into this eating and sharing meals. But eating and sharing meals has an important part in our faith. Because Jesus ate and drank with his disciples just before his death on this very room, the upper room, that they were here. Now we are seeing. So the people called it the Last Supper before his death. So here he came again and appeared to them in the same very room, and they had a dinner there, a supper there. And I like to call it the First Supper. The other one was the Last Supper for the world. But this is our First Supper, that we are going to be continuing to do that until, that's what Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. So sharing the bread and sharing the drink in our communion table is a remembrance of what Jesus celebrated before his death and after his death. And God wants us to celebrate the joy of sharing, not only our time, not only our resources, but also sharing a table together. When we come together as people of God in one table, we are all equal before God. There is no big and small, there is no rich and poor, there is no black and white, there is no difference. We are all equal before God as God's children. That is what the grace and the beauty of sharing a meal together at the table. So our faith has a very important, sharing a meal has a very important part in our faith. That is why we do that, we continue to do that. And Jesus taught us in his this example of sharing. So he asked them, do you have anything to eat? They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate it in their presence. So he's trying to prove his identity again. Not only that he is risen from the dead, but also you will also have a resurrection from the dead. And he said to them, this is what I told you. Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms. Then he opened their minds so they could understand the scriptures. So even when they have read the scriptures many times, and they already heard that Jesus taught the scriptures many times when they followed him, they still did not understand the meaning of the scriptures. As people of God, we need to go deeper into the scriptures and understand it and experience it in our lives. And understand that God's scriptures are alive and they're full of life and power even today. So this meal time that Jesus had empowered them and opened their minds so to see the power of resurrection with their own eyes. And research has clearly shown that sharing meals can greatly boost our well-being. It benefits not only our physical health, but also our social and emotional wellness. It's one of the books that I read that says about emotional wellness. The sharing a meal together, not only as people of God, families, sharing meals together, stay together. They will be more bonded as families rather than people scattered and eat their own meals lonely. It's a big difference when you eat a meal by yourself and when you eat and share a table together and eat a meal together, isn't it? I always feel like lonely when I feel myself eating myself at home if my wife is not there. So it is very different when we have people sharing meals together at a table. So that's why we have our monthly luncheon. I wish we could do more. And also the monthly lunch that we have at Golden Corral. So please join us. It is a very good time that we share love and we laugh. And Lou was there, Carol was there. So we had a good time sharing meals. And those who have come there know that we have a good time together there. So this sharing a meal is very important. It joins us together and it binds us together and makes us feel like one body and unite us as one people. The disciples learned a lot of lessons during this time, that they were strengthened by this particular meals that they shared with Jesus Christ, and they were convinced that resurrection is real, and the power of resurrection joined them together again. That's why they were out in the world after this. Even when they were afraid, they were not afraid of their lives anymore. They went to the corners of the world and preached the gospel of resurrection of Jesus Christ, not afraid. And all of them died as martyrs, as you all know in history. That's what empowered them, because Jesus Christ gave them an example of how powerful resurrection is. And it's not only that, he gave them peace. And that's what he told them, peace be with you. When we share meal together, we share peace with each other. Whenever you have problems with each other or anything that you want to settle, the greatest thing to do is to have a lunch together. That's but not a, I know when President had a problem, then he had, when he started his, you probably remember that a few years, I don't want to name the president, but there was a racial problem and he took over as president. So he called the two parties together in White House and he shared a beer together. You know how that could go. So a meal is different from a beer together. I would not share a beer together to have peace. But having a meal together will definitely bring peace together. And that is what also that they learned, that they will have peace as peacemakers wherever they go. Sharing a meal also is a mission. This is where God gave them the mission to go out. So whenever we share a meal together and take part in the communion, our monthly lunch or meal, he said, I am going to send you what for the Father has promised. Stay in the city until you are clothed with power on high. So sharing the meal, sharing the Lord's table, and sharing the fellowship together is also a call to a mission, that we got to go out and share our time and our meals and our resources with other people who are in need. There's a lot of people who are out there who are lonely, and I don't have to tell you. There's a lot of people who are there who are in need, and I don't have to tell you that. Even in our community around us, people need us. So we are not only to fellowship between each other as a church family, but also to get out of the four walls of the church and share our time and our resources and our meals with other people. And when I say meals, it is not just food. Everything that we enjoy in our lives, we ought to share with other people who are in need. So that is the message that they got from Jesus, and they did that. After this, they went out and preached and shared everything that they had. It is also a celebration of joy and victories. As Jesus Christ said, I will not eat this, when he shared the Last Supper, he said that we will not share until I eat you in his kingdom. So this is also a celebration of what is to come in eternity, that we will be celebrating our victories with Jesus Christ also. That is, one day we will be all having that great dinner with Jesus Christ in heaven together. Jesus is preparing a table for us in heaven where there will be no enemies. There will not be any hatred or violence or problems there. We will be all together in peace and love, and we will be sharing one table as one people of God together. That is what Jesus said, the cup that as I gave you is the cup of the new covenant, a new covenant that God established through this first supper that Jesus had after resurrection. That is what we as people of God to do, to look forward to that day, to be in eternity with all of our dear ones and with Jesus Christ and God eternally, sharing that meal and the drink as one people of God on one table. May the good Lord bless us with these words as we go from this place to be his agents of peace and love and care and compassion to others who are in need. Amen.